What do JP Morgan, Amazon, and Taiwan Semiconductor all have in common? A few things, really. With some of their recent statements and quarterly earnings reports, they give us some insight into the economy, consumer confidence, where people are spending their money, and maybe even a little insight of what we can expect as we kick off a major earnings season here with Q2 earnings. We've got lots of major tech companies that'll start reporting this coming week and the following week. We'll continue into what is going to be a pivotal, I think, earnings season. So let's start with JP Morgan here, which stated that customers continued spending despite rising inflation, businesses continued borrowing, and loan losses remained practically non-existent. Unemployment is low, and many consumers, by various measures, remain flush. And on top of all that, spending on Chase credit cards rose 21% from a year ago and 15% from the first quarter. So people are clearly still spending money. Now that growth included spending on travel and dining, which is to be expected. Obviously, a lot of demand during the summer would make sense to shift toward travel and dining, especially after 2 years of house arrest. Executives said that appeared to be evidence inflation wasn't having much of an impact. Chase customers also started carrying more credit card debt, with card loans up 17% from a year ago, but executives also said most customers still have higher cash balances than they did before the pandemic, and fewer card loans were in trouble or written off than a year ago. So this all paints a pretty rosy picture and just begs the question of, how bad are things really right now? Wealthy clients also continued borrowing and investing, even as the stock market dropped. The number of retail trading clients at Morgan Stanley was 7.8 million at the end of June, up from 7.6 million in the first quarter, though on average they placed fewer trades. And there was a big slowdown in big ticket consumer loans, with mortgage originations down 45%, auto loan and lease originations down 44%. This is to be expected. I mean, these mortgage rates are getting ridiculous. I see car payments of people are paying $1,000 a month. I would never pay $1,000 a month for anything, let alone a depreciating, gas guzzling liability. And I think the results were pretty good here, but there's still a lot of uncertainty, obviously, on the outlook. But let's go further. Let's see what these other companies had to report. But let's move on. JP Morgan usually kind of sets a good tone of what we can expect from the broad market. So let's see. Maybe it was just JP Morgan. They're the outlier. Oh, Amazon just had Prime Day, and the event set records for items sold. It was their biggest Prime Day ever. More than 300 million items were purchased, from premium beauty products, Apple Watches, diapers, and kitchen items. It sold more Amazon devices during this Prime Day than any other. And this year, Prime Day revenue in the US reached 11.9 billion, up from 11 billion during last year's event. So again, people are still spending lots of money. Now, Taiwan Semiconductor, this one actually I thought was the most interesting because it gives us a glimpse of, I think, what we can expect from the tech companies that are going to start reporting earnings. As we'll get to here, some of Taiwan Semiconductor's big customers are Apple, Nvidia, companies of that nature. So Taiwan Semiconductors just raised its full year revenue forecast, citing strong demand for chips used in products, including high performance computers. So clearly there's still a high demand for chips. And this is contrary to what, I've been reading and what everybody's kind of been saying, that if people are going to spend money, it's going to shift to, travel, dining. It's these stay-at-home winners where during the pandemic, we're not going to continue to thrive. But clearly, that doesn't seem to be the case here. Quarterly revenue from the high-performance computing sector, which processes data at high speeds, increased 13% from the previous quarter and was greater than the revenue from smartphones, which also rose 3%. So the fact that smartphone revenue is still rising, people are still spending money on those discretionary items. Taiwan Semiconductor counts iPhone maker Apple and graphic chip maker Nvidia among its customers. In the high-performance computing sector, North American customers accounted for about 64% of Taiwan Semiconductor's second quarter revenue, while revenue from China was 13% of the total, up from 11% in the previous quarter. So people are still clearly spending money, and I thought this was the most interesting one because you figure if what we've been hearing is true, that people are slowing down their discretionary spending. If they are spending money, it's on travel. Well, if their sales were up and smartphone sales were up 3%, and some of Taiwan's big customers here are Apple and Nvidia, maybe we can read a little bit into what we can expect then from those companies this quarter, and it'll be very interesting to see how this all plays out. But this is definitely some encouraging, positive news that makes you think that maybe Q2 won't be the bloodbath many are expecting after all. So we'll have to see. We're going to have a lot of major earnings coming starting this week, this coming week, tech companies, and the weeks to follow. So stay tuned. Stay awesome. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Vinny from the Investment Club, and I'll see you on the next one.